Hey guys, you ever enter an animation contest, not exactly win, and then you open your TikTok DMs to this? Yeah, about 20 other artists certainly did. And boy, howdy, did we all make something awesome together. Hey friends, it's Aaron. I've spent the past few months participating in an animation collab for BBNO Money's latest song, A.D.D. And I'm so excited to talk to you about the process for animating my two parts. If you know anything about animation, you'll know it was such a breeze with no complications whatsoever. More on that later. Let's get started! When I accepted the offer to animate for this music video, I hadn't exactly been given my assigned scene or my description yet. And not wanting to risk falling behind, I just decided to start working on a character sheet. I really wanted to lean into electrifying and dynamic coloring styles for whatever scene I got, really. Being familiar with Mr. BBNO's previous music, I figured it would be a safe bet to assume the style would match whatever part I got. So for his clothing, I took a simple route of a white tank top and I think they're dress shoes, I could be wrong, and maroon pants, why not? I also took inspiration from the trailer for A.D.D 2 to add a glowing effect to his necklace and glasses. I kinda just liked the added interest it had. For the sake of a starting place, I started making some boards. I did not know the timing of anything, but I just wanted a place to jump off of once we got our audio. And you know what? Though I decided to not get too attached to my boards, just in case it didn't flow with the previous or the next scene, or just didn't match the lyrics, it actually turned out fine. Once we had access to the song, it actually paired nicely with the timing of my boards, and so I just went straight to animating. What do you do when you're an animator with aphantasia? Seriously, what? Because picturing anything without something to ground me is near impossible. So, to make things easier for me, and not to waste time on just small and unnecessary details, I use references for help. Especially when I need to draw a body twisting in the air, I like to use 3D models for reference, and my favorite app is Magic Poser. It stuck with me for like 7 or so years, and I would go to bat for it. It made it easier to see how a male body looks at different angles, since my first scene was BBNO parachute flying through the air. And speaking of that scene, I was kind of stuck on how his clothes and hair would behave after he gets launched from the taxi. And not to mention his arms. Would they flail or do they stay stiff? And as I debated reenacting that scene with one of my siblings and my car, I remember those skydiving GoPro videos that pop up once in a while on my feed. So I looked through those sorts of videos and finally had a starting point for my animation. And as a GoPro inherently has a fisheye lens, it really helped me visualize how a body would look with a fisheye lens. 5-point perspective. Yay! As for the second scene, Magic Poser came in handy for both the angle and the lighting. I recorded myself doing the same movements and used that as reference for my animation as well. As for animating explosions, I found a really good video on doing that, and I'm going to link it in the description below so you can practice with that. Finally, it was time to clean up my animation. Except, I really hate doing line art, so I procrastinated by doing backgrounds instead. I really try to keep my backgrounds to a minimum, because I tend to go overboard sometimes. So I figured 3 at most for the entire thing would be fine. 7. I had to make 7 backgrounds. So seeing as I've made things harder for myself, I started with the city background. It just felt like a good starting point, and I knew it would take me a lot of time with smaller details, so I figured we'd get it out of the way. Plus, I needed a starting point for the second background. Having never really spent time doing building studies, I originally just wanted to make just blocks. Simple blocks with windows. But that's not what a building looks like, if you can believe. So I picked a random New York City street on Google Maps to study and began drawing in buildings. Not only was it a good call, but I actually learned a lot from it. Turns out people were right. Studying backgrounds makes it easier to draw. I'm still not doing a background study. When it finally came time to color my background, I used a lot of gradient maps to try to find some color combinations that I really liked. And by using my Baby Not Animated character sheet, I was able to choose the colors that would match with what I had in mind for the design. And then came the second background. Now, before I talk about it, dearest viewer, have you ever tried to draw in 5-point perspective? I sure haven't, so I jumped right into animating in 5-point perspective. I initially had some thumbnails of the background being 1-point perspective, but it really did look better with a fisheye lens. So after a lot of practice and studying, I was not only able to draw a city in 5-point perspective, but animate the buildings moving backwards into the horizon. I didn't want to sacrifice the quality of the background just because they were moving, so what I did was I painted 2 of every building's faces, the front and the side. And I got them into the background by warping it until they fit the boxes that I had drawn. I would have liked to make them more complex shapes, but they're just boxes moving into the background. It's easier for me. With those assets out of the way, I was able to draw the taxi and the background for the brake slamming, and I could move on to the next scene. Here's another question for you, dear viewer. Did I have to make 2 space backgrounds? No. Did I want to? Also no, but it seemed right, so I did. I still wanted some vibrancy to this scene, so I used contrast to make the transition to real life much blander. So to avoid taking away focus from the phone, I had the background darker than the one in the phone. And I also got worried that it would look too static if there was no movement whatsoever, so I animated this background with blinking stars and some movement with the planets. It's not noticeable at all in the final results. Oh well. And as for the pink space background, I loved how well it came out. I didn't just want vibrancy for this one, but I also wanted a little bit of awe, like, ooh, pretty. The background for the explosion part wasn't too crazy either. When I figured out my colors, it was just drawing a rocky, desolate area with foreground to give depth. I added a bit of a blur to it and voila, explosion. And for the final background, I really wanted it to just look bland and boring. With the song generally being about ADHD, the narrative was Baby No Adderall going back and forth kind of between daydreaming and real life, and I really wanted that contrast for my scene. And with my backgrounds done, I could not put it off any further. I began the line art for my animation. I sure hope nothing horrendous happens! Now, I would like to preface by saying I have nothing against line art. I think it's a really good skill to have. I just don't have that skill. My sketches tend to be very messy and lopsided, so I have to refine it with a better sketch during my cleanup phase, which makes it even longer, and I hate it. There's not much to say on the process. I mean, I did the line art and it looked good. So being happy with it, I moved on to compositing for this scene. Except I didn't, because wouldn't you know it, I lined it on the wrong screen resolution. That's right, dear viewer. My most hated part of the process I had to redo, because even if I brought it up to the right screen resolution, it would be blurry. And I would not have forgiven myself if I submitted that. So what's the solution? I just redid the whole thing! Admittedly, it was not so bad the second time. Having the line art to just trace over just made it so much easier. Apparently, line art does go much quicker when you have a clean sketch. Thankfully, it was only the first scene that was on the wrong resolution. The second scene did not give me that many issues, so when everything was said and done, it was just smooth sailing from there. All I had to do was compositing. The relief to just sit there and just shade everything was immense. It's still challenging because shading still requires an understanding of how light hits an object and how it moves with it, but I mean, it looks good when it's done. At this point, I was just relieved to not be doing any more line art. I went with 3 different layers of shading: the actual shading, the lighting, and some bounce light. I later added a gradient to give more depth to the form and focus more on the face. If you can spare the time, I think having that much lighting really ties together an animation, especially one in a vibrant setting. Finally came the easiest step, the step that I was looking forward to in the final lap of this track: coloring! With a solid line art, coloring is a breeze. This time around, I had my color swatch on my screen, so I made the process much faster. And the relief I felt when everything just started coming together, especially with that line art debacle, it was the motivation I needed to cross the finish line. When my character animations were done, I put my backgrounds into Toon Squid, edited them to match with how I imagined the camera to move, and then from there, I took my backgrounds and animations onto VN and layered them together to make the final product. Let's just skip past me having to fix 1 or 2 frames from the scene out of a perfectionist habit. But you know what? I'm glad I did. Because by doing so, I was able to go back and put a chromatic aberration in my first scene. I also added some blur effects wherever I wanted it, and voila, I was finally done. Whew. I always struggle with time management and finishing animated ideas, and I literally never get past a rough draft. So projects like these help me a lot to kind of get used to managing how much time I spend on every part and dedicating time to a project. And I didn't express this, but oh my goodness, I was so thankful for the opportunity. I mean, the past couple months of working on this animation with such talented and amazing artists, it was just nothing short of amazing. I am really gonna miss working with all of them, and I'm just excited to see what future projects they work on. And I would really like to thank the BBNO Money team, not just for reaching out and giving us the freedom to have fun with our parts, but for supporting a smaller artist, especially when artists have been so underappreciated the past few years. Everyone put in so much hard work and dedication into their parts, and it really shows. At the time of recording this, I have not seen the full completed music video, but come on, it's gonna look so cool. I mean, I saw everybody working on it, all their work in progresses. I mean, I'm just so excited to see this. And I'm just so grateful for the privilege to work on this music video, and I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I will. I am just so proud of the artists that were involved here, and I really urge you all to go support them. They are incredible. This was an opportunity unlike any other that I've had, and I couldn't have done it without all the support I've had from literally everyone in my life, so thank you. And if you made it this far, hi! If you enjoyed the art that I made, why not check out the brand new Patreon I made? I have some ideas brewing for like animations, maybe some merchandise, maybe a webcomic, ooh. And so while I'm working on that stuff, I could really use some funding to keep me afloat. I've also got a Ko-fi set up, so if that's your cup of tea or cup of coffee, go for it. And if you can't do either, that is absolutely no problem. Just follow me on my socials. Your support is the world to me, regardless of the form. And just thank you so much for watching and for bearing with this new style of video for my channel. It was nerve-wracking, but I just had to recount this whole process. So bye for now, and I'll see you when I see you.